This is Ross Vilardi. He is about to be given the shock of his life because after nearly 7 years of freedom, his darkest secret is about to be exposed.
He's the victim, you know.
Oh, I got that very quickly. But follow the money.
Follow the money.
Follow the money. And you find out where the real motives are.
And every time he's talking, he can't look at you in the face.
I know. You got a tiger by the tail here, though, buddy. Don't think you don't. This is a career chase, let me tell you.
On October 31st, 2015, what started as a normal Halloween, the holiday of tricks and treats, in a small town of Pendleton, South Carolina, turned into a nightmarish crime scene. 4 members of the same family were all found brutally executed inside their home.
Went to knock on the door and I walked in. It was dark. I heard TVs on and I flipped the light on and that's about as far as I can go on that one.
4 years, the case remained a mystery, haunting the town with no suspects in sight. But in a shocking twist, years later, the people responsible were finally unmasked. And it was the last thing anyone expected.
I keep feeling like I should be waking up from a dream right now, and it's just not happening. So yeah, it's like a movie or something. It's not supposed to be real life.
The opportunity for you is now. If you want to look out for yourself, is to really just to tell us what happened.
On November 2nd, 2015, at approximately 12:30 p.m., deputies from the Anderson County Sheriff's Office responded to a call on Refuge Drive. What they found inside was nothing short of horror. Lying lifeless in the home were 59-year-old Mike Scott, his wife, 60-year-old Kathy, his 80-year-old mother, Barbara, and Kathy's own mother, 82-year-old Violet Taylor. The victims had been shot execution style, at close range, some with multiple gunshot wounds. The victims bore deep knife wounds in their hands, clear evidence that each had desperately fought for their lives before succumbing to their injuries. Blood-smeared handprints on the walls and doors painted a grim picture. At least one of them had tried to escape, only to be overpowered. Yet despite the brutality of the crime, the gruesome scene inside the trailer home remained unnoticed for nearly an entire day. That was until Mike and Kathy's 32-year-old daughter, Amy Vilardi, claimed she went to check on her parents, only to stumble upon the nightmare. At approximately 12:30 p.m. that day, she finally dialed 911.
911, what's the location of emergency?
Oh my God, I need somebody out here.
What's going on?
Oh God.
There's 4 people.
In my mama's house, and
Who are these people that are in the house?
it's my mom and my grandpa and my Jenny and my stepdad.
When deputies arrived, they walked into what only can be described as a massacre. But something immediately stood out. Despite the brutal nature of the crime, the house wasn't ransacked. There were no obvious signs of forced entry, suggesting that the victims likely knew their killer. The last confirmed sighting of them was on the evening of October 31st, 2015, Halloween night. But the most unsettling detail, the front door was unlocked and slightly ajar, as if someone had either fled in a hurry or intended to come back. Investigators pieced together the victims' last known movements. On Halloween night, the family had spent the evening at home, handing out candy and watching TV. But at some point, their killer arrived, shattering the peace and turning their home into a scene of unimaginable horror. Detectives quickly realized 2 unsettling truths. The killer had been invited in, and their only goal was cold-blooded murder. But who would want a quiet, elderly couple and their mothers dead? The answer, it turns out, was closer than anyone realized. All signs pointed to someone within Mike and Kathy's inner circle. Yet, with little to no evidence, the case eventually went cold, allowing Amy and Ross to slip back into their everyday lives. However, law enforcement never fully at ease. Amy Vilardi, Kathy Scott's daughter, had seemingly lost her entire family in one tragic event. She painted herself as a grieving daughter, expressing gratitude to the community for their prayers and support. But despite her display of emotions, investigators quietly noted something. Amy and her husband, Ross Vilardi, were the only ones left standing. They lived just a few yards away from the crime scene, and they had been out of town to visit Ross's parents the night of the murders.
I keep feeling like I should be waking up from a dream right now, and it's just not happening. So yeah, it's like a movie or something.
One detail that stood out in Amy's media interview was her choice of words. She said she felt like she should be waking up from a dream, not a nightmare. Most people would describe discovering their family brutally murdered as nothing short of a nightmare. Despite Amy's display of emotions, detectives would soon discover that she wasn't grieving at all. Amy's Facebook activity painted a troubling picture of her relationship with her parents. She frequently vented about the conflicts with Mike and Kathy, accusing them of being narcissistic, emotionally abusive, and disrespectful, especially when it came to her children. But the most unsettling discovery was that of a video posted on Amy's page, capturing a heated argument between Ross and Kathy. In the footage, Ross utters something that, in hindsight, would become a chilling piece of the puzzle.
Why don't you have Grandma come out here real quick?
I don't think your grandma wants to deal with this trash.
Yeah, I'll show you, stop. Yep, see ya. Oh,
Detectives couldn't ignore one unsettling fact. Amy and her husband, Ross Vilardi, were the only surviving members of the family. Their home sat just a few yards from the crime scene. Yet they had been conveniently out of town that night. There was little reason to suspect them. Their alibi seemed solid. They had been visiting Ross's family in Columbia, South Carolina, nearly 90 miles away. Amy and Ross were never officially named as suspects, yet something about their story just didn't sit right. With no sign of forced entry, robbery was an obvious theory. After all, Mike Scott had a side business dealing in gold and precious metals, but nothing appeared to be stolen. Then came the first cracks in the Vilardi story. Amy initially told investigators that nothing had been taken from the home, but later she contradicted herself, claiming a wallet, jewelry, and a purse had gone missing. Investigators checked. The purse was still inside the house. The wallet, however, had vanished. Then came a chilling discovery. Among the seized evidence, authorities found multiple firearms, ammunition, knives, a front porch camera, and tens of thousands of dollars in cash, all inside the Scott residence. But what stood out the most was a wallet containing an ID for someone named James Harris. The name meant nothing to investigators, and to this day, his identity has never been publicly revealed. Who was he? And why was his ID inside the crime scene? Just months after the murders in 2016, Amy and Ross Vilardi made a move that raised even more suspicion. They sued the sheriff's office. Their demand was to return their seized belongings, which included electric devices, vehicles, and nearly $90,000 in cash. Their reasoning was the money held no DNA evidence linking them to the crime. Then, investigators stumbled upon something they couldn't ignore. Just 2 days before his death, Mike had sent a co-worker a photo of several $100 bills in his possession. When police later searched Amy Ross's trailer, they found an eerily similar stack of $100 bills, each one matching Mike's in serial number. Despite this, the evidence was initially brushed off as circumstantial, but as time passed, more pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, enough to convince law enforcement that the case needed another look. In 2023, nearly a decade after the brutal murders that wiped out almost an entire family, detectives made a crucial decision. They were reopening the investigation. Their first move was a series of fresh interviews with Mike and Kathy's closest acquaintances, determined to get a deeper understanding of Amy and Ross. They started with the couple's neighbor, questioning him about Amy's relationship with her mother and whether he had witnessed anything unusual on the night of the crime. What he revealed would shift the entire case in a chilling new direction.
With the daughter, got angry with her and kept the children from Kathy.
So tell us about that.
It seemed that they really tried to help Amy a lot. And Mike and Kathy, they really took care of the kids. And it broke Kathy and Mike's heart. She just really missed the kids, and the two older ladies that lived there, they were used to the kids coming in and out.
You think Kathy was afraid at all of Amy and Ross?
No, she never expressed that. But it was always the talk of the area that Mike would go to flea markets and he would get some kind of video games that he collected. There was a good resale market for them, and that he would buy any old jewelry that had some gold in it. It was always a rumor that he kept a lot of cash and gold stuff around. And I think you've got to be one sick puppy to go in there and kill two helpless old women. The thoughts that somebody came in and killed those people, I still have nightmares about that.
Next, police turned their attention to Roxy Voorhees, a former employee at Amy and Ross's pet grooming business. In the months leading up to the murders, Roxy had spoken to Amy nearly every day, making her a potential goldmine of information. And they were right. What Roxy revealed was so incriminating, it would shatter any lingering doubts and blow the case wide open.
Ross had made a joke and said, do you want me to... It was a joke at the time.
Right.
And then later I was like, holy, I'm glad I didn't say yeah.
It's Amy, right? What was your job there?
A bather. And I was learning in the process of grooming.
When you worked for the shop, you said they were just getting started, so they weren't very successful yet.
They appeared that they were fine.
Okay.
But then I would hear arguments of them, and a lot of it was money related. When I started working for her, I seen Kathy and Mike at the grooming shop. I was in the back grooming, so I didn't hear everything that was going on, but it was something to do with money.
Okay.
Throughout working there, she'd always tell me about how she was treated growing up and all of that.
What kind of stuff would she say about how she was treated?
She told me that she was always a daddy's girl, and she said her dad he was working on a car and it crushed him, and he was placed in the hospital. And her mom decided to pull the plug. She always hated her mom for that.
Detectives quickly uncovered a troubling financial reality. Amy and Ross's pet grooming business wasn't as nearly as successful as they had claimed. Bank records revealed that in 2013, the couple's reported income was just $25,622. Yet by 2014, Russ had made a series of extravagant purchases: $14,200 on a Ram truck, $5,700 on a Mustang, $10,000 on a Harley FXE, $5,000 on another Harley XL. All of this on an income barely exceeding $25,000. Their financial situation was dire. In 2014, their business generated just $3,000 for the entire year, leaving them on the edge of bankruptcy. Then, investigators found $67,000 in cash stashed inside their home. Money that Ross insisted he had been saving for years. But the detectives weren't buying it. At the very least, they suspected Amy and Ross had stolen the money from the house on the night of the murders. But with no hard evidence linking them directly to the crime, the case remained frustratingly circumstantial. For all investigators knew, Amy could have stumbled upon the bodies first, panicked, and taken the cash before calling the police. As detectives combed through the CCTV footage from around town on the day of the murders, searching for any clue that would help their case, they came across something seemingly ordinary. Ross exiting a gas station that night. At first glance, nothing appeared out of place, but a closer look revealed a chilling detail. On his feet were Asics Gel Speedstar 5s, a running shoe with a distinctive tread pattern, the exact same pattern that matched the bloody footprints inside the crime scene. This wasn't just speculation. ASICS themselves confirmed that the sole design was unique to that model, leaving detectives with little doubt. The evidence against Ross and Amy were stacking up fast. The hidden stash of $67,000 in their home, the $100 bills in Ross's possession, matching those Mike had photographed before his death, and finally, the shoe prints identical to the killer's. With everything finally falling into place, police believed they had enough to make their move. And so, on December 11, 2023, nearly a decade after the murders, detectives arrived at Ross and Amy's new home, ready to confront them once and for all. The moment of truth had arrived.
Hey, are you Ross? I'm Tyler Duncan. I'm with Anderson County Sheriff's Office. This is Steve. I got assigned the case about the homicide that happened in Pendleton in 2015.
Okay.
Is Amy here?
She is.
So since she's the one that called 911, I think you were there also. We'd like to talk to you. If you want to come on out, we'll talk to you and then we can talk to her. Can you describe, I guess, your relationship with Mike and Kathy?
I had a good relationship with Kathy. My relationship with Mike was really great, actually. It kind of turned sideways a little bit July 4th.
So I think y'all had got married that year, is that right?
Correct.
In 2015?
Yes, October 24th.
The 24th. That would have been, what, about a week or so before?
Yep. The last time that I saw Mike and Kathy was before Amy and I left to come down that Halloween. We had just gotten back from my mom and dad's. She went to knock on the back door, but the back door kind of just like was already cracked open or something like that. And that's when she apparently found the scene that she found. She went bolting back out of the house. I think she called 911 before she called me, if I remember correctly.
So you didn't go over to the other trailer?
No.
Over to Mike and Kathy's trailer?
Correct. I never went in that trailer that day.
So after you last seen them, you never went in their place again?
Correct.
These are two detectives you definitely don't want showing up at your doorstep. If you had to picture classic, no-nonsense detectives, they'd look exactly like them. The detectives were carefully laying a trap for Ross. They already knew, without a doubt, that he had stepped inside the house on the night of the murders, thanks to the undeniable match between his shoe prints and the bloody footprints at the crime scene. Their plan was simple. Let him weave a web of lies, then confront him with the hard evidence. When the moment was right, they would hit him with the truth, hoping to catch him off guard and push him into a final confession.
There was a couple things that kind of were red flags, but I don't know if they have anything to do with this or not. Mike bought and sold a lot of items, and some of the people that he was buying from were pretty shady sometimes. That's another kind of red flag that I had as I was trying to just replay like events leading up to the homicide. Should I have seen something?
You're just starting out with this. If you were us, what would you do? What do you think happened there, Ross?
He's the first gentleman that's asked me that. TV shows that I watch always say, follow the money. And you find out where the real motives are.
Ross is doing everything he can to conceal his guilt. Like many perpetrators, he's crafting a version of events that he believes aligns with the truth, carefully weaving a story that he hopes will hold up under scrutiny. But without realizing it, he's only tightening the noose around himself. When investigators trace the money, it leads straight back to him and Amy, exposing yet another crack in his alibi. What Ross doesn't know is that the police aren't letting on that he's their prime suspect. So he keeps lying, completely oblivious to the fact that detectives have already dismantled his entire facade.
They destroyed our business. From January to when this happened, I made just shy of $100,000 with our mobile grooming business. As soon as this happened, with all the media coverage, all of that went away because of this.
And you said you had a large amount of money in your single wide. Is that where the money came from?
The money that was in our single wide in my safe, about $80,000. That was literally the savings between Amy and myself.
Just shovel the bullshit out of that front seat right now so Amy can get in.
Mm-hmm.
He's the victim, you know.
Oh, I got that very quickly. But follow the money.
Follow the money.
You could tell that he's...
Yeah, I saw him.
And every time he's talking, he can't look at you in the face.
I know. You got a tiger by the tail here, though, buddy. Don't think you don't. This is a career case, let me tell you.
The detectives then turned their focus to Amy, who only mirrored Ross's behavior. Lying to their faces with a disturbing sense of composure, she remained eerily calm, attempting to control the narrative. The detectives know that liars often over-explain or stick to rigidly a script, and Amy is no exception.
Your grandmother, and then obviously Mr. Scott and his mom. What do you remember? What can you help us with? Where should we look?
Yeah, me and my therapist talk about that a lot. Obviously, you got to know finding people doesn't really leave you in the right state of mind. Can do things to you.
Yes, ma'am.
And then everything that ensued. I mean, honestly, I can barely remember the funerals.
Ross, tell us a little bit about like the relationship between, like, I guess y'all and the family. Something happened?
We got into it around 4th of July or something with Mike, but he wasn't a nice person at all. Because I told my mom, look, I don't like it. My kids can't come over there until we straighten some stuff out.
So at the time of the murders, you and your mom were back talking, everything was kind of getting patched up?
Me and my mother was not a horrible person. She was prickly.
She always hated her mom for that.
So can you tell us a little bit about that weekend when were you gone, when you got home and you found the bodies, or what happened?
He brought his mom, my mother-in-law, to do Halloween. We went down there, we spent the weekend.
What day did y'all leave to go down?
Friday night. I drove myself quite crazy for about a couple of years there. And I've chosen to step away, and I've got to be healthy, and I've got kids, and I've got a life to live, and if somebody else dropped the ball on it, it's not on me anymore.
Okay. Well, if we just ask Ross a couple more things, and we'll be out of here.
With Amy's interrogation complete, detectives are now prepared to confront Ross with the harsh truth. It was time to drop the act and force Ross to face the reality he had been desperately trying to avoid. Detectives know that fear and self-preservation can break even the strongest bonds. So, they set out to turn Amy and Ross against each other, hoping that when the pressure mounts, Ross will crack first and finally tell the truth to save himself.
For instance, Amy and I decided to, or if I decided to take a deal,
right,
mine is going to be better than Amy's because I came to the trough first, right?
Right.
So, prison time, no matter what. Amy, prison time, no matter what. My 3 kids in here, they grew up without a father and a mother. Granted, my mother would be more than willing to take them. I understand that.
We're not the ones who put you on this predicament. Now you're going to have to deal with the consequences.
10, 20 years in prison. That's best case minimum scenario, I would imagine, right?
It's better than the rest of your life or death, isn't it?
I mean, it might as well be one of those two. By the time I get out, my kids aren't going to know who I am. I mean, the other option is I probably need to talk to a lawyer at this juncture here.
Ross knew better than to talk. He immediately lawyered up, but asking for a lawyer at the end of your confession is diabolical. Just days after their interrogations, Amy and Ross were arrested in Pendleton, South Carolina, and charged with the brutal murders of Kathy Scott, Mike Scott, Barbara Scott, and Violet Taylor. The arrests shocked those who once supported Amy and Ross. Many had believed their story, that they were the victims of a senseless tragedy. But in reality, they were the architects of that tragedy. The couple sat behind bars without bond, awaiting their day in court.
The Vilardis have been on bond for 8 years. They knew that they were suspects from day one. They had a billboard put up in 2017 looking for additional evidence. The sheriff in this case has been on news conferences talking about how he has suspects in the case. They were formally named as suspects in March of 2023. They did not hire an attorney. They did not run, they hired an attorney. People who are guilty don't hire attorneys. People who are going to run don't hire attorneys. For 8 years, we were able to move where they wanted. They could visit where they wanted, travel where they wanted, run if they wanted. moved to a country that doesn't have extradition if they wanted, but they didn't. They stayed here. The sheriff's department was at the Vilardi's house on December the 11th, trying to get Ross Vilardi to turn on Amy Vilardi, trying to elicit a confession. You would think that if they had enough evidence that they would not be needing to try to elicit this confession, but they were there. They pulled Ross outside. They talked to both of them. There was no confession given that day. 2 days later, on the 13th of December, I met with Amy and Ross Vilardi because they felt like they were under suspicion. They were being harassed by the sheriff's department, that they kept coming to them over and over, kept naming them in these in the press conferences, and that they had done nothing wrong and that they just kept coming back to them. The next day, I was retained. If they were going to run, they would have run. They knew, they named him as suspects. He's been on their property. They hired me. They did not run.
We've heard from the Attorney General's office about danger to the community, so I'd like to address that first. The reason it became important is inside of our packet we've included copies of the warrant. Why that becomes important, Your Honor, is they start on page 3 of the packet. When you read the packet on the affidavit of arrest warrant, that on or about October 31st, 2015, in the county of Anderson, when Rossmore Wayne Vilardi did, with malice aforethought, cause the death of Terry Michael Scott by causing fatal wound would led to his death. That's the warrant. Your Honor, I've included relevant case law in the state of South Carolina about what should be included inside of an arrest warrant to justify probable cause. That's not probable cause. That is a bold statement. And that's what we've heard today. The state of South Carolina making bold statements, and the sheriff, the family, and saying what they're saying to community was, we believe Ross did this. And since we believe he did this, you need to keep him in jail. But that's not the way the criminal justice system works. The criminal justice system is not complicated. What we look at is we look at actual evidence. We don't look at theories. It becomes important when you look at the affidavit and the warrants in this case that there is no probable cause. When you couple that with the fact that it took 8 years to arrest Ross, but it took 30 days to indict him. So that's really interesting. It took 8 days to arrest, but 30 days to indict. And the arrest is based upon a warrant that has no probable cause, and included in your packet in page 5 and 6, there's numerous amounts of case law that says you gotta have probable cause. You can't just scare people into doing something. And that's what we're doing here. We're scaring individuals. And then what is the easiest way to scare somebody into believing we have a case is to tie it into the Murdaugh case. And say, boy, we solved the Murdaugh case based upon financial crimes. We've got it. Let's tie him into financial crimes. And there we have it. We have a case. That's not a case. What the state of South Carolina has done after 8 years is come up with a theory. They come up with a theory in which they intend on utilizing in front of a jury, I'm assuming, or in front of Your Honor. This is our theory of what happened on the tape. The problem with theories and the problem with themes is they have to be based with evidence. You can't simply come to the jury and say, they have money, so since they have money, they must have killed him. The state of South Carolina is using a samesies theory with the Alec Murdaugh case. Samesies, it was over money, this is over money, you have to convict. And that's not what they have.
So what drives a daughter to wipe out her entire family? Experts who analyzed the case pointed to financial greed and hidden resentment. Kathy Scott and Amy had been in a heated dispute, one that kept Kathy from seeing her grandchildren. And yet, Amy's biggest concern after the murders was getting the money and property back. When family killings occur over money, the perpetrators often lack remorse. They rationalize their actions, believing they are owed the assets. Amy and Ross Vilardi waited for years, confident they had gotten away with it. But the weight of their crime never truly left them. Like anyone facing criminal charges, Amy and Ross Vilardi are presumed innocent until proven guilty, or until one of them formally admits to their role as part of a plea deal with prosecutors. But justice always catches up. Now, Amy and Ross Vilardi are facing life in prison without bond for the execution-style murders of Kathy Scott, Mike Scott, and their elderly mothers. As they sit in their cold jail cells, one thought must haunt them every single day. Was the money really worth it?